Okay. How is everybody's Monday going so far? Great. Can somebody give me a verbal answer so I can tell if my headphones are working?
It's wonderful.
Oh,
It's so lucky.
Amazing.
it's so lucky, yes. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to this week's, God, all right, let me try it again. Hi everybody, welcome to Monday, March 18th. You are at the Kubernetes 114 release team meeting. You are all being publicly recorded, so you can go and watch yourselves on YouTube later, adhering to the Kubernetes code of conduct where you are basically not being jerks. In honor of yesterday's holiday in the US, today's cat t-shirt is so lucky right meow. I feel like things went relatively well from a CI signal perspective, but of course I'll let people weigh in on that as we move through the usual burn down agenda. So with that, I will hand off to Claire to talk about enhancements.
Thank you. Enhancements still green. No changes since last Friday. As far as I'm aware, nothing's been bumped off the milestone and no requests for an extension.
Excellent. All quiet. I know I've seen some stuff about Windows related bug, but I don't think that impacts their node feature.
No, it does not. That's just a bug fix. You approved it earlier, Aaron, so thank you about that.
Yep.
We're just waiting for Jinx to look at it, and you should go in today.
Yeah, they just took a look at it, and we'll get there. So Maria, let's talk about CI signal.
Yep. Hi, everyone. So things are looking better than last week. I believe that master blocking currently has no failing tests. A couple of dashboards underneath it are flaky. 114 blocking still experiences the same failures as master blocking did. It's specifically the HTTP2 ingress test that used to fail on master. A bit of context here on things that happened on Friday. So SIG Network has decided to take out the test. First of all, the reason why it was failing is because the Go client used within the test to target HTTP2 endpoints did not support the functionality that the test needed. SIG Network decided to take that test out of master blocking suites on the grounds that it does not cover core Kubernetes functionality, and therefore they decided to monitor these things outside sig-release, but leave in a conformance test, which I think sounds about right to me. First question, what you'll think, and just second point here is that I just need to go and follow up and see why the changes have not made it to the 114 dashboard.
So I can answer the second question first. They have made it to the dashboard. TestGrid has this fun feature where it considers a job as failing if there's a test that failed and then didn't have any green runs following that failure until some amount of hysteresis has happened. So that's how, like, if you go to the release master blocking version of the ingress test, there's a little link that says like show stale tests. In the column where it lists all the test names, right above that, there's a little link that says show stale tests, and you can see that's how the test got removed. The same thing has happened for release 114 blocking, but it hasn't done the last, it looks like it takes 10 runs before it considers something stale and ages it out of the display in computations. So a few more runs to go on 114.
Interesting, because the last one that ran does have the commit inside it, but for some reason it still didn't pass.
That is fair. I see, so what I'm seeing now are a lot of timeouts, which is different than the test running.
Yeah, it could be something different.
It could be, that is very fair. From a conformance perspective, I think I'm more okay with that than blocking on. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you are telling me is we had a specific cloud provider's implementation of the ingress resource failing, and so we've removed that specific cloud provider's implementation of ingress. There
That's
are
right.
still tests that exercise ingress, but they're cloud provider agnostic because they're done with Nginx, or that last part I don't actually know. Like how do we, there were a bunch of ingress tests that exercised L7 load balancing. Why are those passing?
So these are still, these used to pass and are still passing. Nothing has really changed there. The only one that was failing was the HTTP2 specifically was a test that asserted that the controller was able to switch between HTTP and HTTP2, if I remember correctly. Sorry, HTTPS and HTTP2. And that was the one that was removed by from the release blocking dashboards. I don't think that ever passed, if I recall correctly.
Okay. I think I'm okay with that in the abstract. Like there is a bit of an anti-pattern that happens sometimes where people are like, oh, I'll just make everything go green by removing the failing test. It's like, yeah, but you didn't fix the problem.
Yep.
The problem's still there. So reading through your conversation on that, though, it seems like this is a cloud provider saying they acknowledge that ingress doesn't work quite properly on their cloud at the moment until a specific bug fix has gone through.
Yeah, that's what I understand too. And then the upgrade dashboard is clearing up. It has, so the GC new master upgrade cluster appears failing. However, drilling into it, the reason for that is down to a couple of flakes that we know about and are working on at the moment. By we, I mean mainly SIG storage. So the priority for the rest of today, at least, is to try and drive them through, try and drive the fixes through and have them merge.
Okay.
Color-wise, as I said, it looks better than last week. I'm still gonna leave it to a very red yellow until we start seeing green runs. So for me, I'll go red. Go ahead.
Okay. What can we help you do to encourage more green runs?
So I don't know if there's much except following up on things that are there on the CI signal board. As I said, I don't believe that there's anything new. I haven't seen much new. There is one issue that I've added to the report, to the release team meeting, which has not had a lot of recent attention, so I'll just follow up on that. Just following up on things is really what we've got open at the moment.
Okay.
Is there anything I'm missing or we should be doing differently at this stage?
I can't necessarily think of anything off the top of my head. I feel like we are preparing ourselves for cutting a release where a number of things are red and failing, and we're going to have to interpret that as business as usual as humans. So being really clear what the flakes are that we have documentation for to point to say, yeah, this is all business as usual will help us. And also what may help Hannes, assuming we can stick to the current release schedule, part of the reason I want us to stick to a schedule of like not accepting any more changes by Friday is to give us plenty of CI runs against the same commit over a weekend, which is something we just went through. And remember back to our point about we want to make sure we can have a commit pass the same test 3 times in a row. I would be curious if the boards as they exist today after this weekend were in a state to allow us to do that. And then like if there were specific boards or jobs or tests that were really preventing us from accomplishing that, maybe we could prioritize what we're trying to drive down that way. It's a thought, it's not a hard ask, but like that's, those are the things that come to mind to me. because I viewed like this weekend as a dress rehearsal for what next weekend will look like. The only difference being next weekend, we're not going to be in code freeze. So the master upgrade board becomes meaningless to us, and the master informing board also becomes meaningless to us because we only care about code that's in the 114 branch as soon as we lift code freeze. Okay, Nico, are you giving us an update on bug triage?
Hello. It's looking good. We moved forward some remaining PRs the last few hours. There's a couple in the merge queue. One has been just merged, and there's some remaining tasks on the Golang update. And one, the framework API extensions, which is the optimizations for E2E tests. And that's all pretty much.
Okay. The main outstanding PR there is the Golang one. I'm trying to get, I don't have the historical context to be able to answer the question that is asked in that pull request. Does anybody else on this call have historical context to answer the question about, well, Liggett, you're the person who asked the question. I think we need to bump the version file, and DIMS is uncertain. I have reached out to Jeff Grafton to understand. Any thoughts?
I mean, typically, I didn't think we released two different bits of code under the same tag. So
okay.
I would have expected us to bump the version, but I think we need to hear from XD if Dims thought that he said we didn't do that.
Okay. That's the one I didn't get a chance to go track down prior to this meeting, and I can try and track down afterwards to see what we have done with situations like this in the past. For context for everybody, this is about moving to the official Golang image and away from our image where we download and install Golang and then use it. It's kind of a nice to have, but I also feel very strongly we should be building our releases with actual images. So I view this as the main thing that would be an impediment to lifting code freeze and cutting a release candidate. I believe I have whipped approves and LGTMs on the remaining PRs. Amit, how is our test infra looking?
Hey, so the test infra is looking pretty good. We merged 42 PRs last week, which is good since we were in code freeze. And then the Go 112.1 changes are looking good. We will move to using official images now that we are seeing that it's working. And then the only other thing was that the upcoming milestone is code throws tomorrow, unless we decide something, unless we decide otherwise today. I think that's all I have.
Any questions for Amit? Okay. Jim, how are docs looking?
Hey, docs are looking really good right now. We got 4 to 5 docs, PRs kind of in flight that are pending review. Communication's been great. I see no issues. All good.
All right. Dave, how are release nets coming along?
They're looking good. So the current PR that's in there is based off our current working draft. We're still pinging SIGs to do any reviews on it, and also watching for reviewing those dependencies after thaw. So things like Go 1.12.1 and making sure we have all the dependencies updated.
Okay. So by what date are you saying no more changes to dependencies?
So there shouldn't be, I'm guessing, yeah, we probably need a little background on that? Is there a specific date that we shouldn't be taking any more dependencies in those release notes?
Well, in theory, the release notes are just a transcription of what's already in the code. So what we're going to, the schedule is currently documented, says we will accept cherry picks up until the end of day Thursday, March 21st. Do I have that date right? Pacific time? Yes. So theoretically, you should have this all done by end of day Thursday, or like it should be completely unchanged Friday.
Okay, then that's what we were kind of looking at as Friday. There shouldn't be any more changes to it.
Natasha, I see all kinds of yellow on your current status. Would you mind walking us through comms?
Yes, not a problem. And the reason it's yellow is just because I feel like I'm at like kind of that pause area where we're in a really good place, but I need some additional like approvals or green lights from the release team before I feel like we can move to a green. So the next steps for me really is the external media pitching. And so this is where I get really sensitive of, is everybody comfortable with the messaging in here? Is this accurate? Can we share it under embargo so media can use it to write their stories off of? So that's why it's really yellow. So the release blog is in a really good place. I do ask that the release team go through the blog today, and anything in there that needs to be changed, please make a change too. If there's things in there that are going to be changing all the way up until the release is cut on Monday, please just kind of make a note in there, highlight it, you know, make a note, so that way I know, like, we want to include this in the final release version if it makes it through the cut, but I'm not comfortable sharing it with media right now. So those are kind of the lenses I need you to go into the blog and look at. Is this okay to share with media to start writing their stories? Is it not okay? Are you comfortable sharing this? Are you not comfortable sharing this? If my entire blog turns yellow, then obviously we're not ready to share at all. But if it's just a few pieces, then I can make a version where it's just to share under embargo. And so that's really important, because for me, for my process, is I would reach out to media tomorrow morning and say, you know, hey, you've been covering Kubernetes releases a lot. Are you interested in covering the 1.14 release? The media comes back, asks for the announcement under embargo, so that way they can read a little bit more about it. That's when I send the version that everybody is okay with me sharing. And then from there, they either write off of that blog or they request interviews. And then those are the interviews that I schedule Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So having a version of the blog is kind of like my poker chip to play in. So that way they'll accept it and want to write. So please, let's have lots of conversations in the release blog today. I can even push pitching off if we need tomorrow. But let's get it in a spot where, hey, we're comfortable with sharing these aspects. The media messages doc, it looks like there's still quite a few responses and conversations on responses. So again, this is a document that is 100% just for media to write their stories based off of. So if there's something in that document that you do not want to put in there, please remove it. If there's things in that document that are missing, please try to fill that out today. This document has details about the release that are not relevant in the release blog, but are very relevant for media and their stories. They help kind of tell that continuation release story that we want. So again, please go in there today. Let's have lots of conversations in the doc today. Let's get that in a solid place. I will not, and Aaron, this is to you, I will not start pitching media and sharing these documents until I have a green light from you that says these are in a good place. I am comfortable with you reaching out to our media list. Because I don't want to put the cart before anybody is comfortable. So does anybody have any specific questions about that before I move on to my other one?
The media messages doc, I would underscore the importance of, I would love to see some input and participation from Claire, the enhancements lead, and from Maria as CI signal lead, or one of your shadows, and Nico as issue triage lead. If you can get that content in before your end of day, I know some of you aren't in the Pacific time zone, because the folks love to write stories about the inside workings of the release and what went well. So if we can help them tell some interesting stories, that's great. And I'm sure you have stories to tell that I wasn't necessarily around for. So that could be really helpful. But Natasha, I do appreciate, I will act as final green light for that. And I'm hearing you want this kind of by tomorrow morning-ish Pacific time.
Yeah, if possible. If we're getting towards the end of day today Pacific time and you guys are like, hey, I need all day tomorrow to work on this as well, just Slack me and let me know. So that way I know I'm not waiting for that green light tomorrow, and I can definitely push till Wednesday. I would prefer not to push farther than Wednesday because that only leaves a couple days for media to write their stories and a couple days to do interviews. And something that happens a lot is companies who have people who have worked in the SIGs or are working on the release, sometimes their PR people really want to be have their company be the spokesperson for a release, and so they'll start pitching media. And then they're the ones that do the interviews, and sometimes they're not doing the interviews based off of the source of truth. This happened a lot in 1.7 and 1.8. So I try to get ahead of that. And so that's why if we're not getting the information out there and we're not getting to media earlier, the media want to cover this, so they'll meet with anybody who can give them details.
Yep, I hear you loud and clear.
Yep.
Maria?
Perfect. And then the other thing that I need is my spokespeople. So the enhancements leads, Claire, this would be you, Aaron, if you're comfortable being a spokesperson for the overall release. And then usually the SIG, whoever's leading out the SIG is a spokesperson, the ones that we mainly highlight in the blog. So like Windows is going to be a big one. Cube CTL is going to be a big one. It looks like storage. Storage is always a big one. These are the ones that I'll need a lead spokesperson from. You could just Slack message me who the spokesperson is. And it's helpful to know what company you're at, because then I can kind of go reach out to the PR person on your behalf and just say, like, for example, for Microsoft, hi, Molly, like, so-and-so from Windows SIG is going to be a spokesperson for us on 1.14. They're not going to have their Microsoft hat on. They're going to have their SIG hat on, but just wanted to give you a heads up that, they may have a couple of media interviews. We do that, not only, out of respect for the different companies, but that way we don't want any of the PR people coming back and saying, wait a minute, they weren't approved to be a spokesperson, period. So, and I know most of the PR people for all the companies that are working on this release, so I can just send quick emails out. That's fine. I just need to know who my spokespeople are.
Okay. I can go suggest some people from a SIG perspective, and I think anybody here who's interested in volunteering, let Natasha and myself know.
Hey, Natasha, I'll send you the stuff for SIG Windows right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I don't anticipate a ton of interviews. but we usually get about 4 or 5. And sometimes the reporters are like, I just want to talk to the release team about everything that's going on with the release. And so that may be, 3 or 4 of us on the phone. Or sometimes they'll hone in and say, I really just want to talk about the Windows enhancement. And so then I would just set up the meeting, with the Windows SIG. So, and I will communicate that clearly, the requests that I'm getting and who I need.
Okay. That was all super informative, and hopefully that lets everybody know why I want to eventually get to the end here to talk about whether or not we are comfortable with the schedule as currently locked in, because I think many of Natasha's dates rely on us proceeding forward as planned. Hannes, how is release branch management looking?
Hey, all, looking good. The next bigger thing is happening tomorrow. At least it's planned for that. I would cut the release candidate end of my day. If you have any comments on the timing, please let me know. I'm happy to push around a bit. And in general, I will check on a go, no-go signal tomorrow anyway, either in the burn down meeting or after that. And I guess it's gonna be a point of discussion now anyway. But other than that, all good, all green.
Yep. Awesome. So to that point of discussion, we had a bunch of discussion on Friday about the thought that the only real major hurdle for us was Golang 112 potentially introducing some kind of regression that we were experiencing solely in a few of our upgrade tests. So we moved forward to Golang 112.1, and then I was supposed to give people a heads up that we may be pushing the code thaw date back a little bit to give us room. Then I went and promptly forgot to tell anybody that. But that seems okay. This is why I'm so lucky, right, Meow? Because it seems as though Golang 112.1, from my evaluation, has solved the problems that we thought it would. I went through and tried to chase down a number of other flakes that people were trying to attribute to the move to Golang 112. And either it seems like they weren't related or that 112.1 has fixed them. But I kind of want to just take a quick poll of all of my different leads and see if you are also comfortable saying, yeah, looks like we're good to proceed ahead on schedule. Since pretty much anybody who's answered green, I'm assuming you're a yes. Nico and Maria, I think I'm most interested in hearing from you two at the moment.
Cool.
Cool, you are good for us to proceed as scheduled?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, Maria, this is not about putting like a ton of pressure on your one decision. I think it's about what can we do to help improve your confidence in this.
Yeah, so I mean, from the things that are not stable at the moment, there isn't something there that I'm afraid of in terms of, I don't think that there's something that we look at that hints at a consistent failure. Famous last words. I am a bit uncomfortable with the amount of instability still. I would definitely appreciate some time to stabilize things more. But I think we can always make the case for that. So I think I'm definitely way more comfortable sticking with the schedule today than I was last Friday. Much more comfortable. How's that for an answer?
That sounds good to me. So my thought was to go through and just sort of reflect on our flakes for CI signal and see like what we believe is outstanding, and if there's any movement we can put on those, but to otherwise go ahead as planned. So the room in the schedule that this leaves flexibility for is that we could at the last minute decide to push code thaw back, and still continue to keep the cherry pick deadline where it is. So just, I'm sure I walked us through this on Friday, but I feel like I can't say it enough. Like, code freeze has been all about making it really easy to land changes in the 114 branch. If your change lands in master using the usual process that you've always used to contribute to Kubernetes, it's going to get into 114 as soon as Hannes presses the fast forward button. It's great. Code thaw is when things become a little more complicated, where if you want your change to land in 114, it has to be cherry picked into the 114 branch. And especially during code thaw period, when there's this like horde of PRs that have been waiting to land in master, we may find ourselves competing with all of those PRs when we want to try and land something in master so we can then cherry pick it into the 114 branch. The way we have dealt with this in the past is to suggest that somebody put their change directly in the 114 branch, so it's not competing with that horde of PRs, and we can still get signal as to whether or not that has addressed whatever problem it is that we're seeing in the 114 branch. And again, code thaw also means that we don't care about anything in the release master informing dashboards anymore, and we also kind of stop paying attention to what's in the upgrade dashboard as well. So if we want to continue to look at upgrade signal, it's whatever upgrade jobs live in the 114-all dashboard, which I'll admit I haven't looked at too closely, but ideally we're seeing the same sorts of failures there that we've been seeing against the master upgrade dashboard. So even if code thaw proceeds as planned, we still have a couple of days of flexibility, but I really do want to try and ensure we have that weekend of stable soak time for whatever commit we ultimately land at. Sound good to everybody? Okay. I think that's the end of our meeting. Does anybody have anything they want to address with our remaining 30 minutes?
I just had a last question on
Sure.
comms. Was it the media messages that that you wanted
Yes.
an input from any stories from CI Signal? Okay.
Yes, I would love to hear your stories there.
Good. Sounds good. It might not be today. I'll do my best, but it might be first thing tomorrow, my morning, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And from triage as well.
I figured as much, which is why I think I'm trying to, like, I think blasting this message out to the media tomorrow morning, it may not necessarily work, but I think like tomorrow afternoon, does that seem like that's workable for you, Natasha? Afternoon Pacific, I should say. My hope was to basically give us this meeting tomorrow as a chance to say, yep, all good verbally, and then we can move forward.
Cool. Winter is almost over. Spring is coming.
That was beautiful.
Oh, my sweet summer children.
So I have something if we have some time. Can I get more eyes on this and this? Mainly, take a look at the first thing. That is an out-of-date copy of the 114 release notes, by the way. And then that is the issue that I am using to track just progress for this, because I would kind of like to try and get this done by 115.
Okay.
So more eyes are better. Any feedback is welcome. I love you all.
you certainly have my axe if it comes to making sure that this is a sub-project of sig-release that is supported. We can try and get whomever's approval that we need to.
But yeah,
Right.
that was it for me.
Okay. Let's all go enjoy the rest of our Monday in the manner that is most appropriate for your time zone. All right. See you all later. Happy Monday.